Hello everyone, welcome to the in-new series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pooja, and in this segment today, we are going to analyze the importance of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Why is it important for India to be a part of this organization? What is the general narrative or thought about this particular organization? Are there any challenges, and what is the way forward with respect to those challenges? Let us have a look at the topics that we are going to discuss under categories. These are the categories in which we have divided the segment. The news piece, of course, will talk about the importance of knowing from the perspective of prelims, SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the member states, and from the perspective of mains examination, we have to understand it under GS Mains Paper 2, International Relations, agreements or bilateral groupings, multilateral groupings which are involving India or affecting India's interests. So this news piece has been sourced from The Hindu, which is of course very important, a very important newspaper for us as aspirants, along with many other authentic newspapers. So of course, if you have covered this news piece, then very good, very important for us to understand why Iran and Belarus, they want to become a part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, along with what is the impact that it is going to have on the overall geopolitical scenario. Okay, let us move on and talk about Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization was institutionalized in order to ensure that there is stability in the Central Asian region and Asian region after the disintegration of the Soviet Union. And it was established formally in 2001, although the informal grouping or informal meeting started back in 1996, and Shanghai 5 are the founding members of the institution SCO. Shanghai 5 include Russia, China, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan. A prelims fact noted down. Other than that, if we have to talk about 2001, why am I saying that SCO was particularly institutionalized in 2001? Because when Uzbekistan joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it particularly became Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Before that, it was only Shanghai 5, the 5 countries I have put here. Now, if we talk about the other members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, we will talk about India and Pakistan's joining as well. That was in the year 2017 at the Astana Summit, remember that. Okay, Astana Summit, India and Pakistan also joined in 2017. So, apart from China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, India and Pakistan. These are the 8 member states. Now, we already know that apart from the member states, there are also other states which are either observing the grouping or they are dialogue partners of the grouping in order to ensure proper coordination can take place. So, Iran, Afghanistan, Belarus and Mongolia, these are the, of course, our observer states from the perspective of SCO. Now, Iran and Belarus, they are set to become the 9th and the 10th member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, although this decision already was, it was taking place in the last year itself. But formalities have to be fulfilled, and after that, Iran and Belarus will become the members of SCO. Apart from that, dialogue partners include Armenia, Nepal, Azerbaijan, Sri Lanka, Turkey and Cambodia as well. And guest attendees, of course, ASEAN, Turkmenistan, CIS and the UN. Alright, moving on. If we talk about the organization, how the structure works of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it has 2 permanent bodies. The Shanghai Secretariat, which is in Beijing, and remember that places could also be asked in your prelims. Beijing, the Executive Committee of the Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure, it is in Tashkent. Okay, so this is SCO Secretariat is in Beijing and the RATS Executive Committee is in Tashkent. Remember that as well. Moving on, how does any organization work? How does any organization work? It depends on what is the structure of the organization. So, it works through the heads of State Council, which is the highest decision-making body of the SCO, and it has its meeting annually. Apart from that, we also have the heads of government council, which is including mainly the prime minister of the countries, and it also meets annually. And what does it strive to do? It wants to resolve present economic issues and cooperation alongside approving the organization's annual budget. This is the say of the HGC. The highest decision making body is the heads of state council. And we also have a grouping by the name of foreign ministers council, and this involves the day-to-day activities of the organization. This is entirely based upon the foreign ministers council, and it also charts HSC's meetings and consultation on international problems within the organization. So this is the structure. Moving on, if we talk about the aim. Now the aim is of course first to ensure stabilization and work on regional security, reduction of border troops and terrorism. Because these countries which are a part of the SCO, some countries were a part of the erstwhile Soviet Union. After the division took place, after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, boundary disputes also arose. So this particular organization also has many achievements in terms of resolving border disputes. Focus on conflict resolution. If you think of any achievements which the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has done with respect to border dispute resolution, you can comment about it in the comment section. And it also helps the Asian countries resolve some of their boundary dispute. The cooperation spirit goes by the Shanghai spirit, which is in its charter, the Shanghai Charter, Shanghai Cooperation Organization's charter, which was adopted in St. Petersburg in 2002. Now, Shanghai spirit means strengthening mutual trust and neighborliness among the member states because they are neighboring countries. Apart from that, promoting effective cooperation not only in politics, international relations, but also trade and economy, research and technology and culture as well. Also moves beyond all these segments to education, energy, transport, tourism and environmental protection. So this grouping has expanded to many areas, and because of the expansion of a grouping to these many areas, it becomes very important for us to understand how it actually fares in the coming world. The aim, apart from all these, is to have joint efforts to maintain and ensure peace, security, stability, and democratic, fair, and rational new international political and economic order. This is with respect to the multipolarity. Okay, after unipolarity and bipolarity of the world got disintegrated, what happened? New powers, new roots of power started to emerge. So in order to ensure that new international political order is upheld, no unipolarity or bipolarity exists, this particular organization also has an aim to ensure that. And of course, we have to also understand the importance of it for India. Now, if we have to understand its importance for India, first of all, look at the neighbors of India. India is neighbors with China and Pakistan, and of course, Afghanistan, which is an observer state. India has also, it was circumvented sanctions by the US with its relation to, about its relations with Iran. And apart from that, recently, India also got, waiver under 𝐃𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐡𝐭𝐢. So it was having its relations with Russia in terms of the purchase of S-400 Triumph, which we have already covered. So you see that many member countries of Shanghai Cooperation Organization are favorable to India in terms of trade. But we talk about China and Pakistan. These two countries present a two-front challenge. Not only India has a border dispute with them, but also trade and economic ties are also not very robust. So India acquired basically the observer status in 2005 and became a full-time member in 2017. This could provide India, this particular platform could provide India as a platform to resolve bilateral and trilateral issues. Also to discuss differences with other members on the sidelines, because India has done so in 2015 in UFA. It has settled many of its issues with Pakistan, and Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar negotiated a 5-point agreement with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi at the sidelines of SCO summit in Moscow conference in 2020. Now, India, as it becomes a part of the grouping such as Quad and such as I2U2, it will be very interesting to see how India remains committed to its independent foreign policy and not remain independent break. and not, of course, given to the temptation of being a part of any unipolar grouping. India has robust relations with Quad member countries and of course the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Many countries are in favor of India, but we have to see how it unfolds, how the nature of the world unfolds as India remains non-aligned. Okay, moving on, if we talk about the narrative, there is a narrative with respect to Shanghai Cooperation Organization that it is anti-West. Okay, the basic premise of maintaining Shanghai Cooperation Organization is that the territorial integrity remains firm. There is no need for a country which is not having a direct interest in Asia to be a part of Asia. This is the basic premise. And the Council on Foreign Relations 2015 it said that economic flexing of the muscles, economic rise of China was unprecedented, and that put China on the world map. And what happened? After the annexation of Crimea, Russia got ejected from the group of 8 countries. Now it's G7. So Russia was beset with economic challenges and also isolation. And China took that particular point in its own favor and it emerged as a leading economic power in Asia. Now China started maintaining distance diplomacy. That means it held that security of one country should not be at the expense of another country. Here it was trying to target America. It was saying that if US wants to remain safe, it does not need to arm the neighboring countries of Russia so that Russia's security interests are in question. This is what is distance diplomacy. Now the organization of SUO is spearheaded by both Russia and China. It has a lot, not only it doesn't have any supporters, but attackers in the West, specifically for Russia after the Russian-Ukrainian war. And now the proposed induction of Iran is basically, it's kind of a diplomacy which is Iran and Shanghai Cooperation Organization versus the West. Because Iran has always followed a policy of look to the East. That means Iran has already been and has time and again been isolated and cornered by the West countries such as USA, such as UK, and many European countries. So it wants to have a grouping of like-mindedness, or if not like-mindedness for terms such as democracy, constitutionality, but it is an organization which has many countries that are not happy with the West. Now, strategic allies it wants to have strategic allies that would help it to reach a new agreement on the nuclear program. It is constantly enriching its nuclear program, and it wants to ensure that it has a support in such a grouping like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, because Donald Trump unilaterally, it withdrew America. He withdrew America from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which up to an extent put a check on the nuclear program of Iran. Belarus lent its support to Russia when Russia invaded Ukraine, and after that it also had to bear with the ill sayings of the West. So Belarus, Iran, all these countries that are becoming a part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, India will find it very difficult for itself to portray its actual policy, that is independent foreign policy and having interest in the peace and stability of the region and the entire world. It will become difficult for India, yet India is still faring very well. Now, ideological differences are a lot in the group itself. Many countries are democratic, many are not. Many countries believe in free speech, freedom of expression, many do not. So, for countries like this, it becomes very difficult to implement policies that have been decided in the institution at the national level. Apart from that, there are many bilateral and trilateral issues for countries such as India with Pakistan and countries such as India with Pakistan and China, and at the same time with all the three they have any sort of disputes. So bilateral disputes sometimes overshadow the actual policy making that should take place in the SCO. Apart from that, new organizations as they crop up like I2U2, then Quad, AUKUS, this will definitely put questions on India's loyalty to any grouping. But we see that India is faring well. Moving on, if we talk about the way forward, first of all, India in Shanghai Cooperation Organization should talk about economics and geopolitics. within the Eurasian states. First is that India's Central Asia policy can be propelled with the help of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Many big countries of Central Asia are part of it. Now, apart from that, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Afghanistan Contact Group has been formulated to stabilize Afghanistan. That is very vital to India's interest in its own state of, its own union territory of Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. And the Shanghai Cooperation Organization provides the only multilateral platform for India to deal with countries such as the Taliban-led Afghanistan and Pakistan. So India needs Shanghai Cooperation Organization as much as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization needs India. Okay, moving on. If we talk about the question, this is with respect to a prelims question. Which countries have been the members of the Shanghai Five? Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan. We have to answer them. 1 and 2 only, 2 and 4 only, then 3 and 4 only, or 1 and 4 only. Answer it correctly. Thank you so much for watching. We shall meet again in the next segment.